Hello, hello! Welcome to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, and today we're going to be starting a new series, or hopefully it will become a series, and that is Senryuu Shoujo. So, for all my old viewers here, you might have noticed that I haven't put out my preview for the 2019 spring season yet. To be honest, I am a little bit behind, but since this episode of Senryuu Shoujo already dropped, I figured I'd do this video first, and then I'll get the preview video out very soon, I promise, right? And for any of you new viewers here, just to give you a quick understanding of my usual format on the channel, I always have a introduction or recap at the very beginning of a video, a blind reaction that has the actual episode in the middle, and then finally I will follow it up with a discussion or review session, my musings, if you will. So there will all be timestamped below, so you can just follow whichever part that you want to watch. I do recommend that you at least check out the thoughts and review section, because I do kind of feel like that is the way I differentiate my content from other pure reactors, if you will. But anyways, so let's talk about this anime now, right? So what is Senryuu Shoujo? Well, its original work is a manga that is essentially a school comedy romance, right? So lots of these kind of things there. Now the unique point about this is that it deals with the subject matter of senryus, hence its title, Senryuu Shoujo, so a girl who does senryus. So what are senryus? Senryus are a type of poetic or a poem structure that follows the 5-7-5 syllable structure, right? Something very similar to it would be haikus. You can probably think of senryus as sort of like the more informal or casual brother of haikus. So even though they both follow the 5-7-5 syllable format, senryus have less rules to them, right? They're not as strict, and they typically deal with more, I guess, everyday matters for comedy as well. And you don't have to, without getting into too much details, it's just a less structured or a haiku with less rules, if you will. And you don't have to specifically tie into one of the 4 seasons with senryus. So this is something that does interest me because, well, anything that has a unique twist on the rom-com genre, I would like to see if it's any good. The actual animation itself, well, there's a lot of things to worry about, right? So first of all, the animation studio for it is Connect. They are not exactly that well established. Their basic claim to fame is probably the Strike the Blood series. But then again, since this is just a comedy, after all, I don't think you particularly need some high or very good animation chops to do this. So that's, I guess, a wash. The director for this is also someone I'm not really familiar with. I looked through his resume. He's mostly been episode directors or storyboard directors. He hasn't really been the actual leading director for that many works. But again, it's a rom-com, right? How bad could it get? Now, the CV list for this is a little bit more interesting to me. So it actually has two voice actors that I really like. One is Hanazawa Kana, and the other is our Russian maniac, Sumipei, Uesaka Sumire, right? So in this part, that's what eventually brought me over the top and said, okay, I'll check this series out and at least give it a few episodes a shot, right? And to see if it's going to be any good or not. So I think that about covers it for an introductory. We'll just talk more within the episode, so let's just find out together if it's any good. So let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. All right. Very classic rom-com start with our main girl rushing out her home for school. Is she gonna bump into anyone? Oh, and there's our first Sendu. 575 syllable. Nanako. Oh. So we already have our main girl and main guy. Okay. Oh, and the opening. As per usual, I will be watching the opening through at least once with you guys, but I will be muting the sound since I don't want to get copyright struck. Alright, so yeah, it is these two. Okay. From what I've seen about some reviews about the original manga work, it's fairly well regarded as a very wholesome sort of rom-com. Oh, by the way, the original work was actually in 4 format, so 4 panels. Wait, that was it? Alright. That was a short opening. And yeah, they just mentioned in the title 575 the syllables. Okay. So she can't talk very well? Alright. Was that? Alright. Okay. Now I'm going to keep on seeing if it's. I'm gonna assume they're all 575. What? Interesting art style. What? Alright. Yeah, I'm really not sure how good the humor of this would be holding up. Hmm? Really? Literature club? Alright. So he can slack off? Or is he actually doing anything? So is this actually a Gap Moe character? Oh, I think he just tried to do a Senryuu. Alright. Oh? Okay, a transfer student. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. That's nice. Oh. Birds are flying in the air. That's stupid. Alright. Oh, okay. That was her free sizes. Alright. I was like, what? Oh. Someone picks a fight, kick their ass. Someone else picks. Oh, so he came here on his own accord? Okay. I guess this is a muscle for brain character. Okay. Hmm. I feel like that would be better translated as demon, not beast. Okay. Hmm. Kimi Torana. Hmm. Yeah, isn't that? I was like, that's kind of like a confession, right? Oh, a brother? Alright. So I guess that wasn't an actual confession, or they at least tried to like laugh it off. Oh, who are you? Oh, right. I gotta mute this. But this is pretty good so far. I like the ending. Yeah, I really like this ending actually. Oh, I suddenly realized this is actually in a short format. Only 12 minutes. Alright. And that was that. Alrighty, so that was episode 1 of Senryuu Shoujo. Quite a cute little anime, I should say. I did like the ending song, and the interactions were kind of nice as well, although the animation was a little bit suspect at a few points here and there. So basically in this one we were introduced to the new two main characters, right? Nanako, who apparently has a speech problem, so she can only communicate through writing, and apparently the writing is Senryuu for some reason or another. And then we also have the boy Eiji, who is a delinquent looking dude but actually has a soft heart, right? So some kind of cliche settings here and there, but well, we shall see, right? We can only see later on how their interaction continue to move forward, right? Rom-coms always have the same cliches over and over, but the good ones have their own twist on things, right? And speaking of twist on things, so the Senryuu, uh, so far I think most of the translations, well, not entirely accurate, right? But at the same time, it gets the point across, right? There's nothing here that is actually pun based or something, so it doesn't really matter that much if it's not the exact translation. And translating these kind of things are hard, anyways. I'm not sure how much better that they could have been able to do this, to be honest. For me personally, when I was looking at this episode, I was thinking to myself, like, is that a Senryuu? Is that a Senryuu? Because it's actually not that easy to catch. Japanese language, when spoken, is they mix a lot of the syllables together, so it's not, even though in writing it's very clear what is a syllable. When you're speaking they tend to get jumbled up. So, say for instance the title of this anime, right? Senryuu Shoujo. So Senryuu itself, even though it sounds like just two syllables, right? It actually consists of four, especially the n sounds at the end of the Japanese characters. Um, you have to constantly, at least me personally, I have to constantly remind myself that the n is actually also a syllable and not just part of it, right? Especially if you're using something more similar to English, where you learn to divide the words into different syllables. Something like is easily just part of another syllable, right? You wouldn't think of it as a syllable in of itself. So that was a kind of fun part for me, right? To try and see if I could catch when they were trying to talk in Senryu's, because than when Nanako is writing them down and you can actually see the words, they do actually try to talk in Senryuu some of the time in the anime. And also, speaking of talking in Senryuu, so the reason I wanted to do this series is because I wanted to learn more about this kind of Japanese poetry. Because even though I know haikus, I know Senryu's, I'm not exactly that familiar with them, like the culture behind them and whatnot, so I wanted to use this anime as sort of like an informational anime to let me learn about it, how they write it, how they create it, and what is the, I guess, charming points of it, right? Because coming from my background, which is, I was raised in the States, but I'm of Chinese ethnicity, I know both these kinds of poetry, right? And it always struck me as pretty interesting, where you could have this kind of poetry, such as haikus, such as Senryu's, where it really only mattered that you follow the same syllable format, right? You don't need to worry about the meters, you don't need to worry about the tones and inflections, and you don't need to worry about the rhyme structure, right? So to me, it just seems like you can really especially for Senryu's, there's a huge degree of freedom which you can use to create it, which is evidenced here by AG, right? So even though we can obviously tell that AG is probably a little bit more novice at making these kind of things. So even just trying to cram stuff in, and then as long as it follows the 575 format, it can pass as a Senryu. It's a bad Senryu, but at the same time, it's still a Senryu. You definitely can't say the same thing if you want to write traditional Chinese poetry, or even something like, I don't know, like a limerick or something. Where you have lots of sets of rules where you need to take some time to think it through before you can actually fit it into a proper format, right? So that's why I want to learn a little bit more about Senryu's through this anime. And so far it does seem like they will talk a little bit about this part, right? Within the club, they did talk about, how when after choosing a topic, you can need to use different connections and whatnot to eventually put different things into the poem. So I'm looking forward to that part. The other thing I'm kind of wondering about is how exactly they're going to stretch this concept out into a season. Now, I know, yeah, the comic, or I mean the manga has already had a long serialization, but still, it's kind of quite interesting. Like, how are they... It's just them in a poetry club, right? So I don't know. Is it just going to turn into afterthought at some point, and it's just a matter of fact of Nanako speaking in this kind of way, or are they actually going to really revolve around the Senryu and build plot lines around it? So that's something I'm looking forward to as well. So this is only the first episode, right? And it's way too early to make a judgment, so I'll probably, again, continue to look through at least a few more episodes, and then see if I want to make it into a proper series or drop it. And also, if this is actually a suitable series for me to make videos on, since if it's just a normal rom-com that's not based on, absurd humor, I don't think there's really much that I can expand on. But anyways, so in the spirit of Senryuu Shoujo, that is it for now. We shall see what next week brings. See you guys around. Well, that was my attempt at making a bad Senryu. But in any case, I'll see you guys next time. So long. Bye bye.